There are many moving parts that influences the success of a business. And sales communication process is definitely one of those tools that is used by even the top 100 companies to position themselves in the market as dominant players. Today, I will take you on a journey to really do that deep dive into sales communication process. And today we will examine two important concepts. So, moving forward, you should have a better, clearer understanding of what sales communication is, and you should be in a much better position of strength not only to learn, but to apply and master these processes. And I want to encourage you, in the absence that you need more support with sales communication, do reach out to pitchdeck101.org and we'll be happy to have a free consultation with you. Remember also to like, subscribe, and share this program. Press the bell so you will be the first to know when we publish a program on a daily basis. Now, let's start today's conversation by really doing that deep dive. Now, there are major differences between the pull factors of sales communication and the push factors of sales communication. And it is absolutely necessary for you to understand the major differences. Now, when you look at the screen that is right before you, you see under the pull factors of sales communication, you have things like absolute biodata, superior sales communication process, and superior client retention process. This all sums up the elements that is necessary, that is used, that is deployed in the pull factors of sales communication. On the other hand, you have the push communication, the push factors of sales communication. And you have things like limited biodata, exploits, impulse buyer's behavior, and inferior client retention process. Now, a lot is being said here also, but it's necessary for you to be able to deduct this entire body of knowledge and to be able to make an informed and educated decision as to how best to apply these two systems to your organization. And don't be fooled by the term inferior, all right? Because inferior doesn't mean that sales processes in this regards is not being optimized. As we get into deeper into today's program, I will do that deep dive into it. In the very next slides, which we will start now, I will start to really dig in deeper into helping you to understand exactly what these terminology means. Now, if you want to be successful in the sales communication process, it's important for you to be able to distinguish between the pull factors of sales communication and the push factors of sales communication. And those who are joining us and perhaps looking at the first program, I want to encourage you to look at the very first program that we would have published only yesterday on this topic, sales communication process. Now, the first concept that is before you, it is identified as the absolute biodata. What is it that you deduct from this term, absolute biodata? Now, to be able to effectively deploy the pull factors of sales communication, this process is heavily dependent on biodata and biodata of the client. And there are three important concepts that you want to take away here or learn, apply, and master. For example, biodata one represent things like understanding or building out what you call the demographic data. And putting yourself in that position of strength where you have the demographic data is so important because the demographic data informs the decisions that you're going to be making to identify certain key characteristics of your target market, and you need to be in the know here. And having the information is really what enables you to make a better, smarter business decision. There are other biodata marker for you to also understand here. And there are concepts that we call the psychographic data. It is also important for you to understand the psychographic data because, in the absence of understanding the psychographic data, it's going to create tremendous difficulty in how the product or the services is positioned in front of the target market with the highest degree of precision. It is the understanding of these data, which we call the psychographical data, that enables you to knowingly develop that value proposition and position that value proposition in front of the target audience based on the psychographical data. Now, if you're doing sales and you're not doing the biographical data, you're not leveraging the psychographical data to better influence your sales outcome, there lies a challenge. And perhaps this is exactly one of the reasons why we have so many persons, millions of young entrepreneurs attempts at sales and fail in this process. It's largely because these biodata is not being fully observed. So we've looked very briefly at the demographic data, the psychographic data, and how about the geographic data? Yes, it is also necessary for you to understand the geographical data. Why is this necessary? Because one, the biodata enables you to understand who you're targeting. You're able to identify who you're targeting. But the ability to identify who you're targeting still does not tell you what are the motivational factors of who you're targeting. For example, it's easy for you to say that you're going to be targeting male or female or young people, but the ability to identify male, female, or the child does not necessarily mean that you understand the psychographical data of who you're targeting. And it is absolutely necessary for you to understand the psychographical data. Now, understand the psychographical data is still not enough because you may I understand the biographical data. For example, you understand the demographic data, the psychographic data, but where can your demographics be found? The inability to understand this, it means that you're not strategically positioned with precision, positioning to identify exactly how to reach the ideal client. And of course, you're going to be reaching this ideal client either through mass media, social media, the metaverse, or independent communication channel. In the absence of having geographical data, you are not fully informed of the entire biodata of the client. Now, the top 100 companies in the world, they just did not become the top 100 companies. They are exploiting all of these data to make better and informed decision making. And I want to show you hundreds of thousands, millions of dollars, and billions of dollars are invested annually into building out and creating these biodata that helps the entrepreneur, the business owners, the top 100 companies to make informed business decision. As time progresses, I will go deeper into this so you really understand how psychographics is captured or how the absolute biodata is captured and how it is monetized with the big companies, the top 100 companies. It's big business. And if you want to take sales communication process to that nexus, that next level, to work for your business, to 10x and leapfrog the growth of your business, you need to have these information that we're talking about today. All right. So there are major differences between what we call the pull factors of sales communication and the push factors of sales communication. At presently, we are discussing the pull factors of sales communication. And there are three concepts that we're looking at now. So The very first thing that you want to do when you are positioning yourself to learn, apply, and master the pull factors of sales communication, you really want to zero in on what we call the absolute biodata. You really want to zero into this. In the absence of this, you're doing business with a veil over your eye. You're doing a business and you're doing it from a guesstimate. You're speculating. You want to do business and you want to use research, because it's only from research and critical market intelligence that you're able to build out your demographic data, your psychographic data, and the geographic data. And this is what's going to help you to be more informed about a critical business decision making process. All right. So, again, reach out to us at Pitch Deck 101. The website is on the screen, and we'll be happy to give you a free consultation to help you build out your ecosystem around the sales communication process. So if you're into sales personally, or you have a company and you want us to work with your sales team, we'll be so happy to provide a free consultation to you. Now, let's take this one step further. We're talking about the superior sales communication process. Now, why do we call this the superior sales communication process? Now, it is superior in comparison to the push factors of sales communication. And I'll explain that further later on. You see, largely because you are using market research, and market research is enabling you to gather demographic data, psychographic data, and geographic data. You're now able to take this entire body of knowledge and really build out a superior sales communication process. And again, I want to encourage you to look back at yesterday's program, because in looking at sales communication, we deliberately and intentionally looked at this process from two different standpoints. We look at what is the sales process and the communication process. Now, because you have the critical information, you're now able to build up superior sales process. And what is the central objective of the sales? To make the sales, there's a number of things that has to happen. You need to understand the process. And if you reflect on yesterday's program, the superior system is built up because you have a system, a step-by-step program that is built out, and it's applied to your sales communication process that enables you to command attention, to pique interest, to arouse desire, to move the potential clients into action, to make impact, to convert first-time users into lifetime consumers, and to easily build confidence, trust, and credibility. So this superior sales communication process expose you to this body of knowledge that enables you to stand out in the sales communication process. But what I've just explained to you only represent the sales process. How about the communication process? This superior sales communication process also takes into consideration the other side of the coin that talks about the communication process. The communication process recognizes the preparedness of the sender to send the message to the receiver. So it takes the time to ensure that the sender has a well-documented message. So here you have the sender, the receiver, the message. The message now has to be sent into a channel. And of course, because this is a superior sales communication process, the channel that the message is being funneled, it's being looked at with clinical precision. You're looking at it in terms of the effectiveness, and you're applying what we call the dashmar of marketing and sales communication to this entire process. Because the last thing that you want to do is to place your message into a channel of communication, whether it be mass media, social media, metaverse, independent communication channel, and it does not achieve the objective that you want it to achieve. So a superior sales communication process really looks at this and ensure that you have the critical information that you need to have to make better sales communication decisions, better business decision. So you look at the channel and you ensure that the channel does not have a whole lot of noise, or if it has the noise, you know how to navigate the terrain so as to ensure that the message is received, the message is decoded the way it is supposed to be decoded, and you get the feedback that is based on desired results. Now, here again, because the fact again that this is a superior sales communication process, the feedback that you get is the feedback that you are expecting. Largely because, again, you're using the absolute biodata that takes into consideration demographic details, psychographic details, and geographic details. So this position of strength that you're in to influence the sale, it's much, much more superior because it's based on the biodata of the client or potential clients that you are appealing to. So it is absolutely necessary to have this type of information. You see, people win in sale not because of luck, not because of accident, but because of understanding the biodata, the absolute biodata, and applying themselves effectively at the biodata. Absolutely necessary. We will unlock some of what I'm saying over the next few days, and it definitely will help to give you some more clarity on the subjects that we're discussing here: sales communication process. Now, if you're in business and you can sell, if you're in business and you don't have a strong sales department, perhaps this is one of the reasons why we're seeing 20% of business start to fail in the first year, 50% fail by year 5, and only 30% survive past the 10-year life cycle. It is our genuine belief at Pitch Deck 101 that if you and your team take the time to understand how the sales communication process works, it will significantly bring down the high level of failure among rising star in business. Now, you're not failing necessarily because you have a bad product or a service, but you're failing because you're not able to strategically position your value proposition in front of the ideal client. And you're not able to do this because you are not observing the absolute biodata as proposed in this program. So the third concept that we're going to look at now is what we call the superior client retention process. Now, what exactly is this? The superior client retention process. This is also a process. You see, because you have your system properly set up and you understand the absolute biodata and you're using this, you are applying this in the superior sales communication process, it enables you now to build out the sales communication process ecosystem in such a way that enables you to have not only tension in sales, but retention in sales. And let me explain this. The average person that is trained in sales, you're trained to make that sale. But are you really trained to have retention in the sales? And retention is where you have continuous buyers. And you could only have continuous buyers when there's a deliberate intent to build out healthy, productive relationship that is symbiotic. A healthy, productive relationship that has two faces of that coin. Healthy, productive relationship that benefits all stakeholders involved. So what is being proposed is that once you take the time to understand the biodata and you build out the superior sales communication process, it literally enables you to have a superior client retention process. Now, this has twofold. The superior client retention process is a system that is built out to retain your customers. Within those systems are also looking at the demographic, the psychographic, and the geographic. But the system is able to retain retention and optimize retention largely based on the fact that the value proposition is strong. The value proposition is aligned. The value proposition is not only making impact, but the value proposition is so set out to ensure that you're building confidence, trust, and credibility. This cannot necessarily be purchased over the counter. To be able to build confidence, trust, and credibility is a process. Of course, there are strategic ways to fast track this entire process. As time progresses, we will go into this. So here is where we do a little deep dive into the pull factors of sales communication. And I want to show you we're only getting warm up here. There's so much more information that is necessary as you go deeper and deeper into this concept. And you bring yourself to that point where you're learning, you're applying, and you're mastering the sales communication process. The top 100 companies do. And if you want to take your business in 2023 to a whole nother level of growth and development, I want to encourage you to reach out to us for a free consultation. And let us start that conversation and really help you how to decode the sales communication process as proposed and apply these systems to your operation that and see the significant growth in your business. So I'm going to stop here in terms of the pull factors of sales communication because I want to look at the next slide, which is the push factors of sales communication. But I must say this, there's a whole lot more to be looked at in terms of the pull factors, and let me explain this a little bit. The pull factors of sales communication is not so interested in knocking on doors. It's not so interested in bombarding, with aggression, direct sales. It's not so interested in, every opportunity you get, you position your value proposition. It's more tactical. It's more strategic. It's more intentional. It really takes the time to get information, the absolute biodata, and leverage those absolute biodata to the advantage of growing, scaling, and fast tracking the development of the business or brand. So there's a lot to unpack here, but I'm going to stop here at this point. In our next broadcast, we will go a little deeper into these concepts. Now, I want us to look a little bit now at what we call the push factors of sales communication, because it is important that we understand both what is the pull factors and what is the push factors of sales communication. Now, the push factors of sales communication, as is pointed out in the slide before you, has limited biodata. Now, why am I saying this? The average person that is trained to sell, they're being trained to sell a product. So it's about understanding the product and services that you're representing. It's about understanding the value that that product or service is promising the final consumer. And that is good. But is it enough? It's different from the pull factors of sales communication, because this type of sale does not take into consideration necessarily research based on how I explained it in the pull factors of sales communication. And that research is based on capturing demographic data, psychographic data, and geographic data. The push factors of sales communication, it's about selling. And there's absolutely nothing wrong with this, but there are different approaches. We, however, on the other hand, we believe heavily in the pull factors of sales communication. In my last broadcast, I talked about Grant Cardone. He is a push factor guy, and he has pushed his way all the way up to becoming a billionaire in sales, perhaps one of the top salespersons in the world. So I'm saying all of this to say that it works. But for millions of the persons who are trying sale, it will not work, because this is only half of the information that you need to close effectively. You see, with the pull factors of sales communication, you're able to close long before you make that pitch. But let's go into this particular topic, the push factors of sales communication. What do I mean by limited biodata? It simply means that yes, you may have some information about your demographic type. You may have some information about the psychographic type. You may have some information about geographic type, but all of that really don't matters because the key focus of the sales agent at this particular time is to make the sale, is to optimize the sale. So you will be deploying random sales statics. This type of persons will be deploying impulse sales strategies because you know that there are millions of persons who make purchase based on impulse. So you're going to be leveraging your push factors of sale to capture this type of audience. You're going to be doing a lot of cold calling. Cold calling is simply reaching out. But cold calling doesn't mean that you are leveraging demographic data, which means that you, before you pick up that phone, in most cases, you don't know if you're targeting male, female, or child. You don't know if you're targeting the high income, middle income, or low income. From the pull factors, all of these things matter. From the push factors, it doesn't matter. And I'm working with a lot of business owners across the world. I'm even interfacing with those who have, you know, businesses in Silicon Valleys. And I'm fully aware of the different strategies that they're using in terms of pulling in their audience. So I'm able to identify strengths and weaknesses. All right. So it is clear that the push factors of sales communication utilizes limited, absolute biodata. The second point that we have listed on the screen is that this type of sales agent, what they do, they exploit impulse buyers' behavior. And I would have said early on, we have millions and millions and millions of persons because of demographic realities. They fall into that category of impulse consumers. And they're sales communication experts that are fully aware of this. They're fully aware of this, and they leverage this type of knowledge to their advantage. Again, I'm not here to say which is better. I'm here to say one, one is harder, it requires more work, but I'm going to be biased and say it's going to give you tremendous more advantage because you're now selling from a position of strength, as against shooting in the dark. All right. You don't know where you're shooting when you're doing the push factors of sales communication. And in sales communication, best practices, you want to know this. Now, it makes a whole lot of sense if you are now able to leverage the push factors of sales communication and integrate critical elements of this into the push factors of sales communication, because the push factors of sales communication is not necessarily finite. There are always rooms for improvement. So, of course, when we train, whether we're training clients to apply the pull factors of sales communication or the pull factors of sales communication, we ensure that they have the essential body of knowledge to achieve better results. The next thing that we have observed here in the push factors of sales communication is that this system has an inferior client retention process, because this is the average salesperson who is going to be, out on the streets, and they're going to be seeing consumer passing, and they're going to make the sale. They're going to say buy and buy me because these are all the reasons why you should be buying. Their objective is to make the sale, but their intention is not necessarily to capture the biodata of the consumer or potential consumer. Their central objective is to make the sale, and this in itself makes it difficult to attain what we call the client retention. All right, the client retention. You see, when you have that superior system, the pull factors of sale, you capture every data necessary about that client. So you're able to get before the sales feedback, during the sales feedback, and after sales feedback. In the push factors of sale, you're not necessarily dealing with any of this. Before the sales satisfaction, during the sales satisfaction, you might be a sweet talker, so you're able to get the sale. But in terms of capturing after sales data, there's none of that. And I've given you two sides of the coin here. And I'm saying to you that in 2023, if you want to be successful in the sales communication process, I want to encourage you to reach out to us. Let us work with you. We're going to give you a free consultation and help you to get your sales communication process properly streamlined, properly set up. All right, there's a right way and there's a wrong way to apply yourself at sales communication. And remember, there are also what we call the pull factors of sales communication and the push factors of sales communication. And you need to know them. All right, it's important for you to know them. Now, the information I've given you today is just surface, and it's only the beginning, because there's so much more that you need to understand about the sales communication process, particularly so from the pull factors of sales communication. As we go deeper into this analysis, into this examination, we will also be talking to you about influencers and the role that influencers plays in the pull factors of sales communication. We will talk to you about storytelling and the role that storytelling plays in the pull factors of sales communication. We will talk to you about numerous forms of communication and how all of this plays into the pull factors of sales communication. So there's a whole lot for us to cover over the next few days, next few weeks, and perhaps months, to ensure that moving forward, you have the right kind of information that you need to have to position your business for success. Thanks again for looking at today's program, taking the time out to be part of this presentation. Remember to like, subscribe, and share. Press the bell so you will be the first to know when we upload these content. I want to talk a little bit about Pitch Deck 101. If you're a rising star in business and you're a US-based company, perhaps even a foreign national, you can reach out to us. Because what we do, we provide an entire ecosystem for businesses. We help you to build out your business ecosystem. As time progresses, we will talk to you about the business success factors you need to know. We'll talk to you about the value proposition 101. And we'll talk to you about systemizing your business. And once you get this right, we'll talk to you about how to access capital. We'll talk to you about different types of capital portfolios. We'll talk to you about smart capital leverage, and we'll talk to you how to get out of debt. We know millions of businesses that are starting, you're going to struggle to scale and become visible, largely because of limited access to capital. You don't have to struggle in business because of capital, because we have a working relationship with multiple financial institutions in the US and other parts of the world, and we are willing now to introduce those financial players to you. So do not allow the lack of information, the lack of sales strategy, the lack of capital to prevent you from realizing your dreams and hopes and aspirations in 2023. Again, my name is Gary Thompson. I'm a business development consultant by profession. I'm a humanitarian by nature. I'm the self-published author for several books, including The Psychology of Money and 10X Branding and Marketing Blueprint, among so many others. All right, it has been a pleasure being with you, and see you in the next broadcast.